Welcome to MSP Unplugged, episode number 12, Adapt and Overcome. I'm your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live show where we discuss different ways to run your IT business, whether it's managed services, consulting, break fix, or anything in between. Our show today is brought to you by Instant House Call, remote support that is easy to use, free auto PC repair to track down and kill unwanted viruses, free sub accounts to let your customers control their PCs from home, and special discount for listening to MSP Unplugged. Half price for the first 3 months or 2 additional months free on a yearly subscription. To claim your discount, go to instanthousecall.com, sign up for your free 15-day trial, then email Corey at instanthousecall.com and tell him you're an MSP Unplugged listener. Let me introduce the co-hosts. We have Paco Lebron from ProdigyTeks. Paco, how you doing?
Better than good.
And we also have Dave Greenbaum from DoctorDave Computer Repair. Dave, how you doing?
Pretty good. Staying safe.
And also Bryce Whitty from Technibble. Bryce, how you doing?
Hey.
And we have Bryan from Valor Technologies. Bryan, how you doing?
Doing great. Staying healthy.
Awesome. Glad to have you all on the show today. And we're going to go ahead and kick it off with a tip or a story that we could learn from. And Paco, I'm going to shoot it over to you.
Yep. So this one actually comes from my good friend over at Synchro. Just posted it in the chat and it'll be in the show notes. Basically, it is there's been a lot of vendors that have been trying to do their part in this whole COVID-19 situation. And one of the big questions that have been coming up is my IT business considered an essential business in my state? And so what they've done is they've included a live Google Doc, kind of crowdsourcing by state, and having those add either, executive orders or things from the state or resources that have stated why that state specifically has mentioned that an MSP, an IT business owner, a computer repair shop is an essential business. So basically, Ian and the crew over there are encouraging everyone to go on the link. It is basically anyone and anybody. Doesn't have to be in Synchro, but it's basically a general resource for everyone so that they can pull up all that information per state if they needed to know something specific for their state, if they are considered an essential business, to be able to operate.
That is cool. That is a nice piece of information for somebody to collate and put together. So that's very cool. All right. And Dave Greenbaum, what do you have for us this week?
Well, since I've had quite a bit of time on my hands and I'm not traveling, I was kind of putting all the stuff away and I found my packing cubes. I've got these cool little things where you pack everything in when you're traveling. And what was very cool is I realized, hey, I got to organize my cables and stuff. And I thought, that is a great way to organize the cable. So I took a bunch of my packing cubes and put them in a nice suitcase to carry with me in the car. So that way I have all my tools with me and I can actually find the right cable when I need it.
That is a cool tip. I like that. Very nice way to be organized. All right. And Mr. Bryce Whitty, what do you have for us?
Something that's probably worth knowing that most countries, well, at least the UK, Australia, the US, Canada, they all have sort of programs to grants for money for MSP, well, not specifically MSP, but any business. And they're actually quite large. So I recommend any MSP to see what you can get from the government with their little, not surplus, what's the word? The grants or whatever they are.
Okay. Very good. And Bryan, what do you have for us as a tip or a story this week?
I would say for anybody, it's going to come more from the entrepreneurial side of me. If anybody's out there ever thinking about starting your business, not just in IT, but any business out there, be persistent. If I hadn't had the persistence that I've had, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. You're going to have a lot of naysayers. You're going to have a lot of people telling you, no, it's a bad idea, all this other stuff, but be persistent. And you're going to find that with enough persistence and enough energy, you're going to be just fine. You're going to survive. You're going to be able to do whatever it is you need to do or whatever, be successful in your company. but persistence really is key. I wish I knew that when I first started my first company 2 decades ago. Now, yeah, that mentality has consistently shown itself to be a great mindset to have.
Yeah, and we often talk about, and I am a firm believer that really, and you hear all kinds of different numbers, but really to me, probably I would say it's an 80-20 rule, and 80% of your business has to do with your mindset. The 20% is just picking up sticks, putting them down, whatever it is you're doing is you can learn that and it's very easy, but having a positive mindset and a good mindset to persevere, like you said, and move forward is something good to have. And it's something we're going to cover in the podcast today. So very excellent tip. Mine is a little bit of a story. So there's this thing called a task list. And as you know, as you take things off of a task list, usually there's 10 things that are put on that task list. It's not that bad anymore, but I'm over embellishing. Anyways, I had a task to organize my passwords. Now, a lot of you say, organize your passwords. What do you mean? Well, I use a program called LastPass to organize my passwords, and it's a great program, and it does a lot of things automatically. But the problem is, if you're looking for something that you've logged into before, you kind of have to, if you have 350 passwords, you kind of have to wade through a lot of stuff to find it. So the organization part was, number one, finding out if the passwords that I had were still valid on sites, which a lot of them had to either reset or find out that they weren't valid, and then organizing it in a fashion. So if I'm looking for a particular part, i.e. a battery or a screen, and some of the different sources that I go to, even though I have that stuff saved in my browser, it's kind of nice to remind yourself of, oh yeah, I used to buy screens from over here. They have these style of screens and they work real well. So that's what I've spent a good amount of time doing. And it's nice to take this amount of time that you have when you're quarantined, most of us, you're staying at home, to get stuff done, organize yourself, get yourself ready to go so that when this thing is all over, you're ready to move on and, ready to hit the ground running. Anyways, that's what I did. I had about 350 passwords. I got it down to 333, and that's where I'm at right now. All right. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll talk about our main topic. Join us for the 2020 annual TechCon Unplugged. Yes, this is going to happen. Bringing community together. Get away from your business for a weekend of learning, fun, and some new relationships in a getaway retreat. Join like-minded business owners to help your IT business thrive. Hear from experts and get one-on-one time with peers facing the same challenges you are. Walk away with concrete action items to take your business to the next level. It's September 25th through the 27th, 2020, and it's in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Tickets are $199. I think rooms are $115 a night. Parking is free. Getting there from the airport is free. Everything, your meals are included for that $199. So it is a great deal. I mean, we're still, with everything that's going on, we're still working with vendors and getting the ink dried and signed and all that kind of stuff on the contracts to get some vendors that you guys have been asking for. And we're going to be updating the website here shortly to get some of the information of Paco and I have been working tirelessly trying to get a schedule together. And so fortunately, we've had some downtime to be able to do that type of stuff. So it's been good. Go over to TechConUnplugged.com, get your tickets today, and make plans to be there. After being locked down for a while, you're going to want to get out and, hang out with some cool people, mostly people like Paco and, John Dubinsky. No, Dave will be there hopefully. And, Dave loves to run around town and grab, 50 different beers from, 20 different places. Anyways, we had a real good time last year and we aim to reproduce that again. All right. So today we're going to talk about, it was kind of my tip last week, adapt and overcome. And so Paco when I asked for a title, this is what he gave me: adapt and overcome. And I was like, yeah, it's probably apropos for what we're going to talk about today. But how do you overcome things and adapt in today's environment? And it could be, this is something that's going on today, but this is something that could always, you're always going to have setbacks in your business. You're always going to have things that are going to pop up unexpectedly. And you have to take the time to either, what you should be is prepared, but you're not going to be prepared for everything. So again, like Bryan talked about earlier, that mindset, having a positive mindset to move yourself forward, no matter what happens, is just understand that sometimes things happen and you learn a great lesson from them. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. And hopefully we're going to talk about some of those things today. But Paco, I'm going to kick it off over to you. And kind of when we talked about putting this, because you kind of put this panel together, some of it, and we both kind of played a part in that. But what were some of the things you were thinking of when we're talking about, hey, how do we persevere? How do we adapt and overcome? And what can we do to, in today's day and age, to keep moving forward?
Yeah, so it's interesting enough where the original thought for this show was inspired by actually reading one of Bryan's posts on one of the Facebook groups that we mutually are in. And I thought that it would be a great opportunity for us. And then I know with Dave, and we kind of were just trying to figure out a way to talk about certain times in our business, whether past, present, or what we're looking forward to in the future, on any hardships that may affect business. And this could, go in all ranges of how that could affect. But now, kind of what is going on with the world right now, I thought it was a great opportunity for not only us to talk about this, but to have Bryce also here, because he does have an amazing service as well to help provide a lot of content and education, like we talked about last week, and helping with that adapt and overcome, because right now we're in a weird spot that we just don't know how things are going to pan out and how long things will go. So I figured it'd be probably a mix of things of how to adapt and overcome. I think the biggest piece I would like is to try and make sure that we give actionable things to do. Just because, there's so much information overwhelmed in the industry and the channel. There's so many webinars, there's so many talks. And I feel like a lot of those are very generic and general and like gung-ho and, hey, stay in there. But there haven't really been very detailed stories. There hasn't been a lot of things that we can tell our community to do to help get them in the right way or in the right spot. So that's kind of what I was hoping to get from the panel here today, and just try to make sure we just get a lot of actionable, if not motivational content to help them steer them in the right place.
Very good. And I think let's go ahead and Bryan, why don't you give us a quick background story of yourself and kind of where you came from and how you got to be here. And then we'll go into some of the different things that you've been through in the past.
Sure. I guess, I get asked the question, how'd you get into IT? And, I don't look like your typical IT guy. I'm highly tattooed. I'm ex-military, U.S. Army, and, farm boy and all these other different things. And none of that really kind of sits with the tech side of things, right? Even through high school and my time in the military, I had nothing related to tech. But I grew up in a family where my dad was very, very technical. And I seem to always have had kind of this entrepreneurial little thing about me where even when I was about 5 to 6 years old, my dad would get me involved with things. I was soldering circuit boards when I was 6 and 7 years old for like $1 a circuit board. My dad made a couple of radar traps for drag racing in the basement of our house. And I was soldering these circuit boards for like $1 a board. By 2 or 3 years later, I had like $500 or $600. So my dad already in a savings account. So, and then, we raised on the farm. My dad, even though he was an electrical engineer, he grew up as a tool and die maker. So we had a full tool and die shop. So I got exposed to tool and dies and tool and die making, vehicle repairs, living on the farm, raising animals. So just such a diverse kind of a upbringing kind of led itself to being inclined in that way. I didn't want to do anything tech. I didn't want to do anything like my dad did in engineering or anything like that until after he passed away. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe now I want to start following a little bit more in my dad's footsteps. And that just kind of led itself to, getting my bachelor's degree in IT, getting my master's degree, getting my MBA. And then eventually I started transitioning out of the military, and I had to come up with a job. So I went to work for an MSP, and I stayed there for 7 years. And my entire goal there was to learn everything I can, from anything to everything, volunteer for whatever they gave me the opportunity to do. And even if I just had to watch over somebody's shoulder and ask 1,000,001 dumb questions, I did it. But after 7 years, I mean, it was easy for me to kind of rise through the ranks, as it were, in terms of being an engineer. And eventually I'm like, you know what, I think I can do this on my own. And that was a shock of my life. Was not prepared for the amount of effort that needed to go into it. I was not prepared to be told no so many times before you get a single win, even your first win. No matter how big and small that first win is, it's invigorating in many different ways. And now, I mean, through trials and tribulations and everything else, we're doing really well. We're doing really well. 2019 was probably by far the most challenging year I've had, both in my personal life and in business. And now right as everything's starting to really go good, now we get with this COVID thing. So, it's life.
That is true. Yeah. There's always unexpected things that are going to happen. And it's, and hopefully, I think everybody knows already over the last couple of weeks that this has really been, people have been locked down and stuff like that. People are they're starting to see some of the things that maybe they either need to change in their business or some of the directions they need to go into, and we don't know everything that's going to happen at this point, but that's okay, because I've said this before. I live in a 6x6 square mile radius area, and there's over 93,000 people in this area. If I really want business, there's business out there, and not everybody's going to close up shop. And there's a lot of people that probably need us, and maybe they're going to look for us a little bit more now, because a lot of them are going to have a contingency plan like this in place in case something like this were to happen again, where their workers can work remotely or whatever they need to do. So IT is not going anywhere, folks. It's still going to be around. People are still going to use computers. I mean, residential people, they're almost panicking if they don't have access to the internet and a computer. So it's still something that's needed out there. Well, that's a great story, Bryan, and thank you for that. And Dave, I want to kind of move this over to you. And is there anything that you're seeing right now, or maybe in the past, that stuff that you're going through where you're kind of, maybe you're changing your mindset, you're kind of looking for opportunities, or, what are you learning during this time?
I'd say probably the biggest thing that I'm really learning is how to use instant house call better.
That's good.
I am a people person. I would much rather go out to someone than try to explain to them over the phone how to find an icon to open up instant house call. But in the past couple weeks, I've become very good at it. I'm like, hey, I could be doing 3 computers at once here, triple billing. I kind of like this. And, when you face a lot of these challenges in life, you really need to look at it as an opportunity to do something different. You get set in your ways, and I have to be taken kicking and screaming to do something new. I mean, that's why, with the conventions and all that, it's great, because you get someone who's just starting out and they're doing things a completely different way. And you're like, why am I not doing it that way? Oh, the only reason is because I've always done it one way and never really thought about another way. So this opportunity, when this is all said and done, I'm going to be doing a lot more remote support, and I'm going to be getting a lot more billable hours. That's a win in my book.
That's very good. And so now, when you said it, now do you have an icon on your website that they have to click on?
I send them to the URL that Corey provides. I know he's like, and I know there's rumors that he's going to do a town hall for the Instant House Call user. So I'm really excited to learn from some other people how they use it. But I don't have the link on my website because I don't want to advertise it because I'm a little bit worried about scammers somehow using it or saying something. So let's keep this private. We install it on every client's computer we see. So hopefully it's there if we've seen them before, if I remembered, if someone else remembered, and if they can find the icon after telling them, okay, it's the little green icon, it's a little DoctorDave bag. I can't see it. And then sure enough, it's there. 5 minutes.
So Dave, and I've been using Instant House Call on my website for the past 4 years. I've been using it for a while. And so what I did was I took my actual icon for my business, which is a nut, TechNut. It's got circuit board and stuff on it. That was made as a logo. And I basically took that logo and down at the bottom of the page, don't put it anywhere towards the top. You don't want it in the first third, but if you have it where it's down at the bottom and it just says in white, get remote support, and it has my icon to click on. So it's very easy to take a brand new customer I've never seen before and take them to my webpage, and basically they click on that, download software and hit install and pretty much hit OK, put their name in and pretty much done. So I've had all different various types of people from young to old who've had little to no problems with that particular process. So anyways, that's just something that I did a long time ago because it's always, how do you make this easy? And I've thought about, I could send them an email. Well, then there's other issues and things that come up. Oh, I can't get to my email right now, or my computer's slow, or, whatever. And so this just seemed like the easiest way to get them to download the software and get it up and running.
So you just gave me a good action item because I just checked my website and realized that the software I used to use is the one that's behind that logo of mine to do get remote. So I got something to take care of tonight.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned that too, Paco, because in the past, when I was in between using different remote supports, I had changed that. And what's nice is I never had to change the location on my website. I use Tech Site Builder from Matthew Rodella, and it's just there. All I had to do was change the background code of where it pointed to the link. And so my process is the same no matter what product I'm using, which kind of makes it a nice thing. So my 2 cents. All right. And Bryce, what do you have to say? You're in a little bit different area. So are you seeing as much of an impact? And with Technibble and everything and the forums and all that, you've got a pulse on what's going on in the industry overall. What are some of the things that you're seeing out there right now that people are concerned about?
Personally, here in Australia, we're locked down, I think like most of what the US is as well. So nobody's really going out much. There was a lot of, in the earlier days, there was a lot of remote support stuff going on. So businesses that suddenly, we've been telling them forever, sort of like you're going to want some sort of continuity. You're going to want to be able to access this remotely. And then suddenly it happens and they're like, oh crap, I need to get this going now. So then, everyone's hustling around just trying to get all this going pretty much overnight. So that was one of the big things. That sort of drops off a little bit because once everyone's already set up, they're set up. And at the moment, one of the things I'm seeing as a pretty decent opportunity for a lot of techs, anything that's business continuity, because we've always talked about the disaster problem, maybe like I've written an article before. It's like, what if you can't get to the location anymore? And it sort of implied things, tornado, fire, flood, road closure, that sort of thing, but never really thought it'd be something like this where you have to stay in your house. So stuff like that. I think a lot of people are focusing a lot on education, sort of. A lot of people don't really know what to do in this situation, how to keep running the business. They don't know what the options are. So some haven't even heard of things like Office 365, and that it's an option that you can access, all your Microsoft Word or your Excel or your emails, all that sort of stuff. So I don't like to use the word, but the word opportunity sounds a little bit, I I guess, a little bit dirty in a situation where people are dying. But at the same time, like, it is an opportunity. There's two issues here. One's the virus, and the other's sort of an economic collapse where, sort of everyone has to reshuffle a little bit. So, when like Dave and I are referring to seller opportunity, we're talking about sort of economic reshuffle thing. But there is a lot of opportunity here for us techs.
I don't think opportunity is necessarily a bad word when when you look at things as a win-win situation.
Yes.
In other words, you're doing your best to try to help your customer
Yes.
to be able to weather the storm, to be able to come out on the other side of this and still continue to sell widgets, fix teeth, or whatever it is they do. So, and it's this. I go back and I look at a lot of this stuff, and we've talked about it before. We've talked about the business continuity. We've talked about backups. And it's everybody goes, oh, my customer doesn't want to pay for this. My customer doesn't want to pay for that. And it's like, that might be true, or you really suck at letting them know what the repercussions are. And there's probably a fair bit of truth in that, because a lot of us that are techie or like to tinker, we don't really like to go out there and go, hey, buy my product, even though it's going to help that person and help them in their business or help them in their lives. I just got an email through the college that I was going to last year, and they basically, because they're shut down now, they're letting all these people know, okay, we're going to do classes from home. You would not believe how many young people actually do not have computers in the US. And it's like, what? And a lot of the colleges actually provide computers, which is, that's what really blows me away. So you definitely you have to set these things up ahead of time. And I've got people that are taking old computers and actually fixing them up for people that don't have them, because they're still in decent working order. And they, maybe they've got a cracked screen, or, they need to be, wiped and reloaded or something like that. But, so that's type of stuff is happening, because people usually, they don't throw stuff away. A lot of people just keep stuff around. So anyways, so let me go back to Bryan. So Bryan, what types of things are you kind of seeing out in your neck of the woods, and what types of things is your particular business going through? I know before the show you said you deal with insurance industry, right?
That's one of the industries that we do a lot of work with. And even not just what I see, but also just what I read and listen to in some of the social media channels. It seems like it's either feast or famine. And some MSPs are really, really busy now, more than they've ever been. And some are figuring out, how to close shop and weather the storm. I'm not 100% sure why, but I would take a guess that it's got a lot to do with the industries that they serve. With this economic shutdown that we're experiencing here in the US, I would make the argument that some of these MSPs focus on groups that are now not essential. And when your customers are down and they can't pay their bills, that has a trickle-down effect. And I think that's part of the reason. Like Valor Tech, we're doing really well. We've had, I think we're gonna be able to weather the storm really, really well here. We're in a good position, just by sheer dumb luck from some of the stuff that happened at the end of the last year and into now has helped kind of shore up the company to weather storms. We aren't doing furloughs. We have no intention of doing furloughs. Our clients are doing really well. Really what has kind of helped with that is anytime we engage with a client, whether it's insurance or anything, we always talk about what is a BCDR, what is your BCDR plan? What are the big risk factors for you? And my CSO was really, really good at kind of foreseeing the challenges that would come from this early on in the year. And through just him, our typical level 10 meetings, having these conversations led us to kind of start talking to our customers early, seeing where the challenges are, seeing where their potential challenges are, what we could do to help remediate that. We were bolstering our infrastructure to help with remote work about a month before it kind of hit. So when things started coming down, we were already communicating with our customers. We were already positioning ourselves to be on board and helping these guys or helping our customers. And you're in this together. So I think regardless of where you are in your industry, I think it really comes down to you have to be able to help your customers weather a storm, because if you can't, once again, it has a trickle down effect to you. So, I really hope that a lot of these MSPs can weather the storm. I hope that, we all kind of take a look at how we do business and have a money set aside, contingency plan, as it were, and really kind of showcase your ability as their IT provider. They're trusting you to guide them tech wise to help weather these kinds of storms, and to have to make a quick, rapid change in how they operate. A lot of our customers never had to have, telecommuters, and now every one of them has hundreds of people. In some cases, some of our companies have hundreds of people working from home now, and they were not positioned for that when this whole thing started. So I think really having the foresight and just paying attention to what's going on in the world and having that open line of communication with your customers is critical.
And I think that's really good. And I think that's some of the changes that are going to come about with this whole thing that's happened in a good way. And I think there's going to be there's going to be certain businesses that are going to go, hey, so-and-so can really work from home. And I know there's always this thing. I laugh because I was talking to our good friend, John Dubinsky, and we were just chatting. And we were talking about customers. And one of the things he says, people sometimes they want to know if their employees are doing what they need to do. And it's like, because they're working from home. I'm like, I've been in some of these offices. You didn't even know what they're doing in the office, because either you're not there anyways, or even if you are, you're shut back in your office in the back. So what are you talking about? And it's people thinking a certain way, like, oh, because they're at home, they're going to get away with stuff. And I've heard from a lot of different people, and this is probably true, and I can only attest it to myself. You tend to get a lot more done at home for the most part. Now, that's not going to be everybody, but for the most part, that you tend to get, you're kind of a little more focused. You're a little more relaxed. You're not having to wade through traffic, an hour there, an hour back. So there's a lot of benefits, I think, to working at home. And I think there's certain jobs that can actually run out of the home, no problem.
I think some of the challenges with that, if the circumstances were different and schools were like, our schools are shut down here. So we have kids working from home. My wife is working from home too. So you have new challenges with the remote workforce in the current situation. But I think there's a general understanding that that's kind of comes with the current territory. Once this is done, I could definitely see the teleworking being much more advantageous. I mean, for me, I live an hour away from my office. That's 2 hours more worth of work I get to do. And you're right, I'm a lot more relaxed. I have my office at home. Even with my kids, I can still get a lot done with that additional 2 hours. So I think you're going to see this telecom or this teleworker position kind of being a little bit more readily available than what it has been in the past.
Now, Paco, let me ask you, as far as your particular area, obviously being downtown Chicago, and for the last couple of weeks, I know you've been in your house. Have you been actually traveling to the office at all, or have you just kind of been working, doing everything from home, or what's your current situation with all that's going on?
So I try to stay home as much as possible. Now I had to run to the office maybe once or twice. I think the first time was last Sunday, because my network went down. So I needed to figure out what happened with the firewall and what's bringing me down, because my main machine is at the office, so I need to be able to remote into it. So and I ran out of a co-working space. So as I went there Sunday, it was like in the morning or in the afternoon, it's obviously a ghost town. I mean, if anyone knows the West Loop of Chicago, I mean, it's so much density there, to the point of not only of people being there that are residents, construction, I mean, you name it. I've never seen parking in front of my office ever in the 2 years that I've been at this new location, let alone in 7 years that I've been downtown. So I was able to park right in front, went in, figured out what was going on. I did the podcast, then just ended up coming back home. Now, I don't do any on-sites unless it's extremely needed and I'm the one doing it. So I have 2 other contractors that serve as my techs to help, and I dispatch them and go from there. They're handling a lot of the remote work. So they're monitoring Slack, which now we spun up our Slack instance again, brought back my admin. So she's kind of monitoring the queue and figuring out everything from there. So now I have the opportunity to, assess what are really on-site emergencies, because there's a lot of my clients that are in manufacturing that are still open, and for one way or another. So sometimes they need some assistance with some of the gear going on, and I'm the one that's going there, because I don't want to put anybody else at risk. So that's kind of been the, I guess, trend per se, is I've been trying to stay at home as much as possible. But I have been to the office a couple of times and have seen kind of just no one around, I guess, for per se. And that's kind of my getting out moments, as a lot of people say that they're going stir crazy, but I'm kind of loving every minute that I get to stay here and not have to worry about much. But, I have others that say different. So
I'm with you, man. I got, I think I put in 75 hours of Witcher this week. So, yeah, 75 hours of video games, in a week's time, because I actually have time to do it. So that's why I guess I'm enjoying the relaxed atmosphere and just kind of sitting back. And everybody knows I work a full-time job, and it's usually 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, plus all the other things that I do on top of that. So
what's funny about that is I have not picked up a game controller since 2015 Christmas. I did probably, I think 2 weeks ago, finally installed Quake 3 again on my PC, and actually messaged Andy. For those who don't know, Andres Quiros is a good friend of mine, friend of the network. And we actually, played Quake for I don't know how many hours, and we hadn't played Quake in decades has been since we've played. So but yeah, I've gotten some video game time in as well, which has been pretty relaxing.
Yep, exactly. Of course, my daughter was playing, she's at home with us right now, but she's been playing Animal Crossing on the Switch, and she was saying how relaxing it was. And I said, well, actually, I said Witcher 3 is pretty relaxing too. She goes, aren't you killing monsters all the time? I said, yeah, it's very relaxing. It's just like, something's wrong with you. I said, I know. Anyways. All right, Bryce, what are you seeing that people can maybe do moving forward in the future as far as moving their business forward?
Moving their business forwards. I think one of the biggest things, and the other sort of touched on a little bit, is just largely getting in front of people, sort of asking them, how can I help you? Because we're sort of in largely uncharted waters. It's sort of like, okay, how can I help you? Because they're hitting new issues, new technical issues they've never seen before. And there's all opportunities there where you can say, oh yeah, well, I know how to solve that. I've done that sort of thing before. I mentioned a little bit at the start of the show with the subsidies that are coming in, that was it subsidies? The stimuluses, sorry. The stimuluses that are coming in as well. There's a huge opportunity there. And I think in the US, it's quite a large one as well that's coming in. So you need some money to keep the doors open on that one. That's an opportunity to sort of keep the ball rolling and at least survive long enough. What else? I mentioned just another thing as well you could do would be something like, in addition to sort of trying to get the message out, you can also sort of bring people to you a little bit with something like, say, a Facebook group. So you could do something like, for example, like a bit like, sorry, something like a sort of business group in Kansas, for example, or you could name it something like surviving coronavirus Kansas. So you're bringing other business owners to you who actually need help, and because you're the one curating that, it's sort of, you can focus it a lot around you and your business, and there's opportunities there to help people as well. So I think the key thing is just asking what's out there, offering help, saying, how can I help you? And also sort of trying to bring people to you with something like the Facebook group.
Can I?
Yeah, I like that.
Can I speak to that for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, Bryce, you brought something up, and it reminded me. One of the things I've seen more now than I've ever seen before is businesses that would normally be competitive or may have a kind of a distaste for each other are putting away the differences and actually working together to solve problems. And more importantly, they're coming together and communicating. I can't tell you how many times I've seen businesses that would normally be marketing product XYZ are now relaying information have nothing to do with their own business, and relaying, you know, pertinent information on the community, a lot of the SBA stuff, news stuff. I mean, the whole communication path and what's being communicated has definitely changed in the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that.
That's good. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of good information out there, and there's a lot of good information on the internet, and there's a lot of bad information on the internet. And this goes with groups too. And what I would encourage people is, you don't want to turn any of these groups into a, you know, woe is me session. You want to help each other. You want to be there. Hey, what can we do for the positive to move forward? And what are some of the things, maybe some ideas that people are coming up with, not just, oh, this is going to suck, and oh, woe is me, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you want to be positive about this situation. You want to, you know, and not everything's going to work out. As long as you understand it from the outset. And guess what? This is a life 101 rule. Not everything works out in life. 50 years on this earth, I'm going to tell you, not everything works out. So as long as you understand that, you kind of go in with a little bit different attitude. We've all been through things, and, you know, maybe we've handled some good, maybe we've handled some bad. But I know there's a couple situations where I lost a lot of money in real estate. And basically, when I lost all this money, I had my friends look at me and they go, "How are you so calm?" And basically, I looked at him and I said, I have one of two choices. I can either roll over on my back and wet on myself, or I can put one foot in front of the other and just move forward. Those are the only two choices I have.
See,
There's no other choice. What's that?
I see. I'd go to jail. I lose $1 million in real estate. Someone calls, I'm going to jail.
But here's the thing. With that being said, there was a lesson that was learned from that situation. There's a lesson learned from every situation. Now, here's the thing. If you learn a lesson and you repeat that same lesson over again, not learning your lesson, shame on you. But most of the time, I think people will take the situation that's happened to them and go, I will never put myself into that situation again. And so it helps you for the next thing that comes along. And it helps you be a better person, and it helps you weather the storm a little bit better. Is it easy? No, it's never going to be easy. Shoot, life's not easy. As soon as you come out, the first thing you do is you're crying. So, I mean, you know, on a good day. Anyways, Dave, anything you want to add to this conversation as far as direction? Any of your thoughts that have come up about, you know, business or anything like that?
Sure. You know, I've talked with a lot of business owners over the past couple weeks. In particular, I have a lot of restaurants that I work with. And on one level, they've had to lay a lot of people off, a lot of servers, but the owners are now much more involved in the businesses and are asking the critical questions. They like have downtime. They're like, oh, the dining room's closed. Let's talk about upgrading the point of sale system. And so many of these business owners we talk to say, I never have the time. I can't stop the business. I can't deal with this now. Now they have time to deal with it. And, you know, there are loans and stuff coming through that they didn't have the money. Well, now they're going to have the money. and the time, and we can fill that gap between the money and time and help them grow and expand their business. So it's overall, it could be a real win for us and for our clients if we let them know that we're there for them to navigate these waters and help them through this downtime and retooling.
That's very good. And I will say this, I will follow up with this. A lot of people still rely on things like email. And email is wonderful, and it's a great communication tool that I still use today. Probably my number one thing besides, all the Slack and Facebook groups and all that kind of crap. I still use email to communicate on a regular basis. But here's the thing. Pick up a phone, because people are bored out of their minds. They're stuck at home or they're stuck in a restaurant trying to figure some things out, and they're more than willing to talk to human beings. And you're going to land a lot more cases that way, where you can basically talk to a human being and have a real conversation, human being to human being. There's nothing that will ever trump that, emails or anything else. So take the opportunity, get in contact with these people, and let them know, like Dave and these guys have been saying, that you're there. You're there for them. Hey, let's do some stuff. Because you're right, Dave. If the dining room is empty and the IT closet is basically there's nobody around, and basically the inside of the restaurant is shut down, there's a lot of things you can do in those situations. Even regular offices, we're not even talking about restaurants. Hey, all the computers are not being used unless they're being remoted into and stuff like that. But there's still opportunity there to get some things done on a regular basis. So I like that.
So I will say that I agree to a point with what Jeff said as far as picking up the phone and calling out. And I think that's a great opportunity. But I think right now, because everyone still doesn't know where they are, I think probably everyone will kind of figure out and level off probably first week, second week of April, is the way you come off making that phone call. You don't want to be very salesy. You don't want to throw anything down their throat as they're trying to figure everything. I think this is a great opportunity for educational communication out. And you pick your avenue of how you like to do that. Is that whether that's newsletters, whether that is articles, whether that's blogs, etc. So like for us, I knew that we had to get our marketing and we had to get our presence back going. We had to reactivate our social channels. We just had to get in front of as many people as possible so that whoever happens to be the one person looking will be able to see it. So for me, I'm very lazy, and I was trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way I should probably say I'm more time. If I like to make my time more efficient is how I should say it.
I'm with you, brother. I'm lazy too. I admit it.
But I was trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way for me to get content as fast as possible? I don't like to write. It's very hard for me to get in front of a camera and record something. I'm very good at audio, obviously, clearly. So what I ended up doing was I was like, okay, who do I know that has a lot of content that I can probably use, that's white labeled, that I can go from? And lo and behold, we got Bryce that's on the call here as well, who actually just revamped his membership recently. And I want him to get the floor to kind of talk about that. And we started utilizing that. I also went ahead and utilized Matt Rodella's Tech Blog Builder and being able to create custom blogs, but I created the blog, or I'm having them create the blogs as case studies. And what it's doing is highlighting what we did for some of our clients that highlights some of the points of what could be beneficial right now. So one client, manufacturing client, we were able to get all their licensing all together, made their billing subscriptions smaller. So we were able to save them money. We were able to get them onto the cloud for some of their shared drive, got rid of their file server. We were able to manage a lot of the connections that they were having, trying to remote from home on a business laptop to the PC at work. So a lot of these things that you may have done in the past, it's great to have a quote unquote case study or just highlight what you've done for clients so that someone can see that post and say, man, that's a similar thing that we're trying to figure out how to do. Maybe we should give this guy a call. Or, hey, now I know how to word that so I can contact whoever I need to kind of get that. So that's kind of some of the things that we decided to do on it early on. Is very educational. And that's the focus we've been trying to look for, is not only educational on our services, but education on what's happening locally, everything that's happening in Chicago, everything that's happening in Illinois. We're trying to spread that word too, because as we know, we want to make sure that our clients and everyone around us, that we are being great neighbors and helping as much as we can online and through any avenue we can.
Well, to that very same point, a lot of my engineers have actually come back and asked, hey, we want to volunteer some of our time. Great. What a lot of our engineers have started doing is they'll take a day and they will start reaching out to nonprofits, other for-profit companies, and just offer their assistance. I mean, these guys are great. I mean, these guys are highly technical, very, very efficient and professional in what they do, very knowledgeable. And they're just reaching out to people going, hey, I have time. If you have any needs, let me know. We're not billing. We're not doing anything. This is strictly to help other businesses get through quite literally an unprecedented time. And we've had very good success with that. We've actually had clients that have said, when this is done, we need to have a deeper conversation. I mean, we're not even using it as a sales thing. We're literally just out there going, what can we do to help other companies weather the storm? And that message, the collaborative coming together, we've mentioned in multiple different ways on this podcast here, it really does shine through. You know, and another thing I actually wanted to also bring up right now, with all of these people working remote, one of the things that everyone should also have on their mind is cybersecurity. Be cognizant, watch what's going on, be vigilant, because this right now, I guarantee you there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of, or even possibly millions of people out there just looking for the suckers, looking for the opportunities. And right now, with things being decentralized, it's a high risk. So that's something else that people need to be cognizant of when you're out talking. If you have a remote workforce, hey, we should be having this conversation.
And I think you hit a great point, is that there are a lot of people want to do webinars and communications of remote working and how to get their technologies right. But you spoke on a specific thing, that there are other things outside of the technology that people need to be aware of working remote. And I think this is a great opportunity for those to reach out to not only like chambers, but there are local community organizations in your neighborhoods that probably need someone to talk to this. And again, you know, a lot of these community, and that's how I was able to become very successful in the area that I am, was I partnered with a community organization. And for like a year, we did a lot of these, I forgot what we called them, tech webinars or tech nights or something. I forgot what we branded them as, but they were basically assisting the community on that. And they were a quasi chamber. They weren't a full chamber, which would probably get a lot of attention from other people to get involved in their, you know, members and their enrollment. But local community organizations are going to be very beneficial to you to spread that word, so that, you know, your local community doesn't get had by a lot of these situations that are happening out there.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, get that word spread out there, because a lot of people, and it's amazing to me that the customers, especially residential customers, are always, not always, but there's a lot of times where they get compromised, and it's like, I told you, if you ever have the situation, call me. And it's not once, it's not twice, it's 3 times. And you're just like, how in the world? Just call me. You know, I'm not going to charge you every time if it's a couple minute phone call and I can, oh, nope, that's a scam. What do you need me to look at? You know, then we can turn it into something else. But I'd rather do that than, because they're already, what's funny is it's not about the money, because they're paying scammers $200, $300, $400 for doing nothing on their computers, but remoting in and making a mess. So yeah, there's a lot to be said there.
And once
Bryce,
you're scammed,
what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, once you're scammed, they know that you're gullible.
Yep.
They're coming after you again, and it might be a different way this time. So now you get stuck into the cycle, and it's terrifying. Not just residential, but even commercial companies get stuck into this thing, and it's yeah. It's amazing they haven't learned their lesson yet.
Well, human nature. I mean, we've all had the emails that have come in and said, "Hey, your PayPal account has been password has been changed. Can you log in right through this link. And you're like, and you look at it and you go, for a quick second, you're like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. But it catches you off guard because you're busy, you're not paying attention. And it's funny because when you talk about that, Bryan, I was talking to my wife the other day and I said, I'm going through setting up passwords, doing all these different things, logging into the state sites and all that kind of stuff and getting all that stuff done. And I told my wife, I said, I got a new thing. I said, what do the normals do out there? Because I figure myself to be a fairly intelligent person and I can figure this stuff out and it's hard for me. And I'm like going, so the normals out there, they're like going, they're lost. And I feel bad for them. You got to get in there and, try to mitigate as much of the scamming that's going on out there and just let people know, hey, just give me a call, talk to me, let me know, send me an email, send me a text message if you allow that. I don't, but anyways, some people do. All right. So Bryce, going back to the other topic we were talking about where Paco had said, basically you have marketing materials and stuff like that. This is probably a great time to get that message out there. So what is it you have to offer?
As the others have said, sort of this, I think the central theme of this whole thing is sort of becoming a lot of education and just being helpful. And so one of the things that's quite helpful with education is something we release is newsletters, content, blog posts, Facebook ads, a few other things as well. And these allow you to soft sell. Generally, we do half of them a month. That's soft sell, and it's almost entirely educational. And one of the things we're doing was the scams that are going around right now, just how ripe it is for being scammed and things to look out for. And that one's sort of quite a soft sell with maybe a little line down the bottom that says, if you need some help, give us a call. Other things are a little bit more selling. It could be something like Office 365 or Google Apps. We have articles for sort of both this month. So sort of getting started with both. And if you want to get set up with this, again, give us a call, that sort of stuff. But it just saves a ton of time for a lot of our customers as well. It's we write it once and everyone else gets to enjoy it and use all this work that's already done for them. I mean, of course, you can write stuff yourself, but you've got to find time to write stuff for yourself, and your time's worth more than that. So that's something we help a lot of people with, and that's the Technibble marketing membership.
Very good. And yeah, I agree with you. Having educational information out there does a couple of things. It not only gets the information of actual actionable items that your customer base can use, but it also puts you front of mind, even if that wasn't your intention, which, I mean, let's face it. I want my customers to stay in business and make money doing whatever it is they do because they are providing jobs for other people and they're providing livings for them. And so at the same token, there's nothing wrong with you wanting to get paid in your business to do what it is you do.
Yeah.
And as long as it's not in a slimy way, which, nobody on this panel does anything like that, I'm sure. We're just, we're out there to help people and help them to the best of our ability, but also get paid accordingly. It's an important differentiation out there. Yeah, as Dave said, rubbing the fingers together. It's all about the money. Dave, I know better than that from you. So Dave, obviously, are you marketing or doing anything to get a message? What type of message are you getting to your customer base out there right now?
Well, I've done a few things. I sent out an email through MailChimp, and I'll tell you, I got a fantastic response. Probably half dozen people said, thank you. Just letting me know what's up, letting them know our procedures. Got my little spray bottle of alcohol that I'm using all the time, everywhere. And they were really pleased by it. I was doing a Facebook Live every couple of days, just kind of keeping people up to date, letting them know how we're changing our procedures. Because I work with a lot of older clients, and they're afraid of us coming into their homes. We're afraid of any type of cross-contamination. And you are getting mixed information on the internet. And we're doing the best that we can under the circumstances and really thinking about our procedures, especially they hear the stay-at-home orders. They're like, can you come fix my computer? I'm like, I'm essential. Yeah, I'm not just the IT guy. I'm essential now. I love that. I want a little badge that says I'm essential. So no, it's been good in a lot of branding. I'm a subscriber of Technibble, and we get a great response in those newsletters. If I don't send it out on the first of the month, I've got 3 or 4 of my clients. Did I miss the newsletter? What's in your newsletter this month? And then there's the ebooks. The ebooks are great because clients have a specific question. I'm like, hey, we've got an ebook on that. Can I email it to you? They love it.
That's good.
A lot of this is branding now. We may not be able to sell as much, but being that trusted authority and letting them know that we're the person to go to with IT questions, even if they're in lockdown and they can't move around or something like that. When things pick up, we'll be there for them. We're in this for the long haul.
And that's a good way to think about it too. And this has been true in my life. I could give away a ton of things, and I do on occasion. And it always comes back. So you call it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. But the reality is that's just the way it works. Again, life 101. So yeah, don't worry about giving out that free information and helping your customers during this time, because they will remember that. And I've had customers come back to me years later, and I deal with mostly residential. So for me, it's like, you can remember me years later and go, I remember when I just had a customer the other day. I remember when you did this service for me and somebody had screwed my computer up and blah, and you didn't even charge me. And that was an on-site call. And I can't remember why I didn't charge them. Doesn't matter. I felt like I could do it, then. And it's one of those things where I wish I could do for, a few that I wish I could do for everybody. But sometimes those things happen, and it was a bad situation that I helped them out of. And lo and behold, a couple years later, they call me back and say, hey, can you fix this? Yeah. And you know what? Whatever price I give them, it doesn't really matter. They just write the check or, swipe the card, whatever. Yes, people still use checks nowadays. Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, this conversation could probably go on forever and ever. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and collect our lasting thoughts. And anything that you want to share that we haven't shared yet, any of your thoughts as far as giving people information out there, and we'll go ahead and end up with that. Paco, let's start off with you.
Yeah, so I guess I'll end it off with something I looked up the other day, actually earlier today, and basically was looking up, like, how did businesses survive the recession? And there was a quote on one of them that said the major reason why most small businesses failed during the recession was because they tried to survive by acting alone. So I leave that with everyone with, one, swallow your pride. Be very humble through this time. If you need help, ask for help. Open those conversations with your vendors. Understand that a lot of them that are probably inundated, whether it's financial, whether it's software, whether etc., are being inundated with calls and emails, and they're readily making things available to their client base to help them weather the storm. Open those conversations up. And even if they haven't even posted anything about it, talk to them. If you're leasing space through a big co-working space or through an actual tenant or a landlord, talk to them. Let them know you're going to be late. Don't let them be surprised and just assume that you're going to be on time. Work with software vendors. There's a lot of software vendors, whether through malice or through goodwill, are offering free subscriptions and offering a lot of great opportunity for those to take advantage of them. Do so. And this is a great opportunity to look at your stack and look at your software that you're using and look at the things you wanted to try out. I know that it took me some time to finally get everything on the board and what we're using and how can I make things simplified. So now I'm making some transitions with some vendors because I found a better solution, or a solution I've been trying out. I finally pulled the plug, and now I'm able to either save some money, save time, or expand my market share. And ultimately, if you're gun shy about that one opportunity to try and market, the one quote I've always heard is that it's always, if you're afraid to invest in something, the best thing to invest in is in yourself, because you can bet on yourself for the result. And you determine how that's going to end. You determine how that's going to begin. But that's the biggest piece, is if there's something you feel that's going to help you, pull the trigger, make that investment if you feel like you're going to get a long investment out of it. And that's kind of what I'll leave off with today.
Excellent. Bryan, what about you? Any lasting thoughts?
I like Paco's what'd you say? Swallow your pride. I like that a lot. Take advantage of the opportunities, right? I mean, there's a silver lining in everything. It might look ugly out there, and there might be everything looks bad right now, but there's silver linings. You have these interest-free loans that are coming out through, now this is the US, through the SBA. You've got grants for payroll. You've got all of these opportunities that you will probably never, ever get an opportunity to get again, and take advantage of it. I mean, you absolutely should. They're there. They're meant to help you. Take advantage of them, and take advantage of the opportunity to invest in yourself, invest in your business, grow your business. Just because you might lose a couple clients now because of what's going on doesn't mean you can't get new clients during this time frame. Like I said, my engineers have taken a lot of time, have taken some time out of the week to just help other companies. And with asking nothing, we don't do any soliciting, we don't do any marketing, we don't do anything to those clients. And just by virtue that we're helping them weather the storm, we are getting great feedback going. We need to have deeper conversations when you're done. The information you've given us is just invaluable. And we're finding that other IT companies are not taking advantage of the opportunity of communicating, talking to the clients. And we're seeing the results of just that, extending the hand of the helping hand out. Take advantage of it. It's here. It's now. You've got so many opportunities to, get basically free money. Do it. There's no reason not to right now. And I think you're foolish if you don't at least try.
Very well said. All right. And Dave?
Well, there's a phrase that I've always tried to live by, or at least for a long time. Luck is where preparation meets opportunity. And there are a lot of opportunities out there. And if you're prepared for them, you can really take advantage of them. And that could start today. After everything we've talked about, there's a lot of ideas that came through. We don't know. The funny thing about the future is we don't know it. The future hasn't changed. It may seem scary, but it's just as uncertain now as it was a year ago. So we need to really prepare for whatever pivots there could be in our business, having the tools and resources available to us. I gave the example of remote support, not something that I was very interested in. Now I'm very interested in. And to try to figure out which vendor I needed for remote support now would have probably been a bad thing. So there's a lot of things in your business that you could take this downtime to prepare for, so that way when those opportunities happen, you can take advantage of them.
Excellent. And Bryce, what about you?
Off something Dave said a little bit earlier was sort of don't be afraid to try something new. I actually have a friend who's not in the tech industry, but it's probably one of the smartest small pivots I've seen so far. My friend builds signs and sort of not like 2D prints, but 3D things, with lights in them and that sort of stuff, out of acrylics, perspex, that sort of stuff. And one of their pivots was they started creating the screens for that you'd see it like in front of a 7-Eleven to stop people breathing and sneezing on the workers. So it's sort of, yay big with a few holes, that sort of thing. And their customers are already shops. They already have the customers. So they've just created a new product for something they're already creating. They've already got the perspex, already know how to cut it, and they've already got the customers. So small pivots like that in the tech industry, if you can do that, try and think of something new or something you can do well by altering what you have just ever so slightly. Another thing I'd probably also say is education. That's kind of been the central theme of this show a little bit, is educate. You can do it in a way that's not, it doesn't feel like you're taking advantage of the situation. Sort of, I'm here to help, and just be helpful, I guess. Offer help, ask how I can help. I'd say they're probably the main ones.
All right. And I would say I would take this opportunity while you are shut in, or whatever it is you want to call it, And not only if you need to learn some software, you need to learn some of your equipment. Maybe you need to do some back office stuff like, I don't know, maybe creating lists on how to do things, procedures and stuff like that. This would be a golden opportunity. So again, take time for yourself, take a deep breath. Everything will be fine, but take the time to get some things done that maybe have been on your to-do list for years, and you actually have an opportunity to actually tackle those right now. So take the opportunity while it's here, because as these guys have said, it might not be back around anytime soon, and it probably won't be. This is, again, it's unprecedented, but this is definitely a weird one for all. So I think everybody will be fine on the end, but hey, time will tell. I know everybody will be fine, and there's always 15 different ways to do something, and we will figure this out together. But yeah, don't be like a person on an island all by yourself. Reach out to other people, and that's why we provide the content we do here. Because number one, I don't have anything else to do, but number two is because we want to help people and get the information out in not a scary way, but in a way that is helpful. All right. With that being said, let's go ahead and go around. And before we get out of here, Bryce, if people wanted to know more about you or get some information from you, where would you send them?
Head on over to my site, technibble.com. And from there's information that we've been writing since about 2006. And if you need some help, if you want to sort of shortcut the process of getting content out there and educating, then we have a service there, which is the marketing membership.
Awesome. Glad to have you on. And
Thank
Dave,
you.
would if people wanted to get a hold of you and maybe ask a couple questions or just chat a little bit, where could they find you?
I'm on the Facebook like everyone else. Also,
the Facebook.
We love that. I'm also, if you want to email me, call my website, call drdavekc.com, call DoctorDaveKC.com.
Awesome. Glad to have you here, man, and a lot of great information you shared with us today. And Bryan, if you had, if people wanted to find out more about you and where you're at, and where could they do that?
Well, you can always go to Valor Technologies website. That's Valor, VALOR.TECH.IO. I recently joined Twitter. I'm a complete noob at it, but you could find me on Twitter at Bryan Sevener, at Bryan Sevener, and that's Bryan with a Y.
Awesome. Glad to have you on the show. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And Paco, where could people find your lovely mug at?
Well, so a couple things actually. So one thing Bryan didn't mention is he is going to be out with a podcast soon. So I want everyone to follow him to make sure that they catch that when it gets released. And then two, what a lot of people don't know is it was actually because of Bryce and Technibble is the reason how I found this community. So when I had left my residential on-site company that I was working with at the time as an independent contractor, I was looking for forms. And as I was Googling forms, I found Technibble's business kit, and which has a lot of great stuff in there for the members and stuff like that, which is, I believe it's a separate product, right? Still, Bryce?
Yeah, okay. Separate part. Yeah.
So so that's another product you definitely want to take a look at as well. Help me get my forms and stuff for the computer repair days and some of the stuff now. And through those channels, I found podcast, I found Jeff, and then kind of just started my endeavor here, which you can catch us here at 7:30 Eastern every Sunday evening. I am very heavy on LinkedIn, so you can always connect with me on LinkedIn. I am on Twitter as well. I know a lot of people are on Facebook. I have had a very hard rule that I don't interact with any listeners or message anybody as friends as Facebook. But if you want to reach out to me and you do have any questions, this is a different time now. Feel free to reach out to me via Messenger. And I'm also in a lot of the Facebook group, IT Facebook groups as well.
And before we get out of here, though, Bryan, what's your podcast going to be on, and when's it coming?
Well, we were before the podcast started, I had mentioned that we were in the process of content creating, and that's what the studio here is behind me. Now we're kind of shifting gears a little bit, doing this a lot more remote, but you can find us on Facebook at TCP IP Podcast. It's the cybersecurity policy and information podcast. On there, we talk all things security related, whether it's personal, commercial, government, anything. We also do unboxings. We do product reviews, a whole bunch of different things. And like I said, we started creating this kind of before the whole COVID thing started happening, but we are now regearing and continuing with content creation. We should be out probably within the next 1 to 2 weeks here.
Very good. And I probably shouldn't say this. I'm not as shy as Paco, but you can friend me on Facebook, and I actually will, because I actually only log into it like when I want. I have no notifications on my Facebook page at all. No notifications on Messenger, even though they're all loaded on my phone. But if you do message me or get a hold of me, again, you can email and all that kind of stuff too. So anyways, there's that. You can watch live and hang out in the chat room over on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. You can also subscribe using your favorite podcatcher so you never miss an episode. And I want to thank you for subscribing to the show, and we'll see you next time on MSP Unplugged.